Part 1. A town built on secrets. Beaumont, Texas, a humid, sticky pocket of the American South, resting uncomfortably on the edge of the Gulf Coast. The kind of town where everybody knows everybody's name, or at least pretends to. Where local gossip drips heavier than the summer sweat, and the silence between neighbors says more than their polite hellos ever will. It was here, in a quiet neighborhood off Felon Boulevard, where the disappearance of 17-year-old Emily Hart would shake the town to its core. Emily wasn't famous. She wasn't the type to cause trouble. She worked part-time at a diner, volunteered at church, and was planning her escape, a nursing degree in Houston, a bigger world outside this rusted town. On the morning of August 9, 2017, Emily left her family's modest one-story home around 7:30 a.m. She kissed her younger brother goodbye, packed her work apron into her backpack, and promised her mom she'd be home in time for dinner. She never made it to work. Her disappearance didn't set off alarms, not at first. In Beaumont, teenagers go missing and come back after a day or two. It's small-town mischief. The cops would say she's probably with friends. Her mother was told, probably just needed a break, but Emily wasn't the kind of girl who vanished without telling someone. When 48 hours passed with no text, no Instagram updates, no Snapchat stories, her family knew something was deeply wrong. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her manager at the diner said she never showed up. And her best friend, Kayla Dunn, hadn't heard from her since the night before. Then came the strange part. Her phone pinged one last time at 2:47 a.m. Nearly 20 miles outside Beaumont, near the edge of the Big Thicket National Preserve, a place known more for its snake-infested swamps than for teenage getaways. That ping would be the last electronic trace of Emily Hart. The official search didn't begin until day 4. The Beaumont PD, led by Detective Ron Givens, told the family they were doing everything they could, but even the search felt half-hearted. Local volunteers, dozens of them, organized faster than law enforcement. Whispers began about how Givens had been close with Emily's father, Mark Hart, years back, before a falling out split them, about how the police were dragging their feet, about how the Hart family wasn't exactly liked by some people in town, including some in uniform. Emily's mother, Janet, grew furious. She started contacting journalists, private investigators, anyone who'd listen. But the deeper she looked, the more she was warned to stop. Part 2. The search that wasn't be day 6. Emily's case was already slipping through the cracks. The media hadn't picked it up. The police gave a 2-minute briefing outside the station, reading off a sheet like it was a routine incident. "We're following all leads," said Detective Givens. At this time, there is no indication of foul play, but that wasn't true. Not really. In the kitchen of the Hart home, Janet stared at her daughter's calendar, still marked with college prep dates and church events. There were no secrets there, no boyfriends, no fights, no strange phone calls. Except for one name, scribbled faintly on August 6, Danielle. Janet didn't recognize it, neither did Kayla, but Emily's brother, Micah, did. "He's a cop," the boy whispered, "I think. I've seen him come by before, when you were at work, a cop." Janet's blood froze. She brought the name to Detective Givens, who waved it off. "Probably a friend from school," he said. "We're looking into it," but he never wrote it down. That same afternoon, Janet drove to the station to file a formal request to involve state authorities, the Texas Rangers, who had jurisdiction over local law enforcement in corruption or incompetence cases, but her request was lost, then denied. Meanwhile, Emily's pinged phone location near the Big Thicket still hadn't been searched thoroughly. The police said it was too vast, too dangerous. So the community stepped in. Armed with mosquito spray, maps, and old hiking boots. Nearly 40 volunteers combed the forest. On the second day, they found something. Not a body, but Emily's backpack, muddy, waterlogged, and hidden beneath a pile of brush near an abandoned shack. Inside, her phone case, wallet empty, a torn photo of her and Kayla, and a single sheriff's department pen. Kayla recognized it immediately. That's the kind they have at the station. Givens uses them. The volunteers handed everything over to the sheriff's office. The next day, they claimed nothing had been found. The backpack had vanished, just like Emily. Part 3. The outsider. It was day 10 when Logan Reese, a freelance journalist from Houston, pulled into Dry Creek in a beat-up Toyota with a cracked windshield and two voice recorders in the glove box. He'd heard about Emily Hart from a local Reddit thread buried beneath UFO theories and ghost stories. But something about this one stuck: a missing teen. A rural sheriff's department refusing help, a backpack gone missing. It smelled like something. Logan met Janet and Kayla at the diner, ordered black coffee, and opened a yellow legal pad already scribbled with notes. "I don't trust the cops," Janet said flatly. "They've done nothing." "It's like they don't want to find her." Logan took it all in. The pen, the backpack, the name Danielle. "That name," he said slowly, "matches a deputy from over in Polk County. Danny Langston. Got quietly transferred here last year." No press release, no badge number listed online. Janet stared at him. "You think he knew her?" "I think it's worse," Logan said. "I think he may have been meeting her in secret." The theory stung, but it made sense. Emily had recently told Kayla she didn't trust someone in uniform. She hadn't elaborated. Logan stayed in town, sleeping in his car, chasing leads. At the local gas station, he struck gold. A cashier, Tammy Rios, remembered Emily. She came in here about 2 weeks before she vanished, looked nervous, was on the phone. "She told someone," he said, "if I talk, it's over for me." Tammy hadn't told the police. She didn't trust them. Too many rumors. Logan scribbled it all down and started recording. He followed up on every name Emily had written in her planner. Old teachers, classmates, even the town librarian. All of them said the same thing. Emily was sweet, quiet, but she'd been asking questions about a traffic stop, a missing woman, and something about the town's old chemical plant. The deeper Logan dug, the more he saw it. Emily wasn't just missing. She'd stumbled into something bigger than anyone had imagined, and someone had silenced her. Part 4. Buried in paper. Logan knew the real dirt never floated on the surface. It settled deep in filing cabinets, court records, back rooms no one bothered to dust. He started at the Dry Creek County Clerk's office, a squat brick building, with flickering lights and a receptionist who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "I need arrest records, incident reports." "Past 5 years, that's not public," she snapped. "You'll need a FOIA. Logan smiled politely. Then he showed her his press badge, laminated, a little worn, but official enough. Eventually, she sighed and handed him a box labeled 2019 to 2024. Personnel incidents. Inside, misfiled. Documents, reprimand letters, redacted names. He spent 5 hours sifting, and then he found it. A sealed complaint filed anonymously in 2023, referencing Deputy Danny Langston. The claim said Danny had inappropriate contact with a female minor, threatened her to keep quiet, and falsified a patrol log the same night. The name wasn't listed, but the timing matched. Emily. And that wasn't all. Another folder marked abandoned evidence, listed a camera and a flash drive, both submitted under a Jane Doe tag. The items were logged by Deputy Langston and marked as misplaced. That camera might have been Emily's. Logan took photos of the documents, emailed them to a secure server, and walked out with a pit in his stomach. Later that night, he met with Kayla again. They sat on her porch in the warm dark, crickets chirping. "You were right," he told her. "She was on to something. Your sister tried to expose this town, and I think the sheriff's department made sure she couldn't." Kayla's voice cracked. "Then where is she? Where did they put her?" Logan didn't answer, but his eyes said it all. He believed Emily was gone. Part 5. The deputy, who left a few days later. Logan got a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was low, raspy, tired. "You poking around Emily Carter's case?" Logan sat upright in the diner booth where he'd been nursing. "Cold coffee for 2 hours. "Who's asking?" "Name's Tom Alvarez. I used to wear a badge in Dry Creek, not anymore. Meet me behind the old Midland grain mill, midnight, come alone." Click. Logan showed up. Of course, he came with a body cam hidden under his jacket. The mill was rusted, fenced off, and surrounded by high weeds and old beer cans. Alvarez was waiting, late 40s, leather jacket, gray around the temples. His face was the kind that had seen too much and said too little. He lit a cigarette with shaky hands. "I left the force in 2023, couldn't look the other way anymore, because of Emily." Alvarez nodded. "She came to the station once, asked to speak to someone off record, said she had photos, video, names. She looked scared out of her mind, but determined." "What did you do?" I told her to file a formal report. I thought she'd go home and think twice. Next day, that girl disappeared. He inhaled hard, coughed. I confronted Danny Langston. He told me to forget her. Then I got suspended 2 weeks later for procedural violations. Internal Affairs never called. You think Langston. I know he did something, but he wasn't acting alone. The sheriff, the DA, they're all in bed together. Drugs come through this town like clockwork. Emily was poking into the wrong barn. Drugs. Sheriff's deputies running fentanyl up from El Paso. Emily caught it on her camera. She had license plates, faces, and they knew it. Logan stared at him. Numb. This wasn't just a missing girl. It was a machine built from uniforms and silence. Why come forward now? He asked. Alvarez crushed the cigarette. Because I see you. And I see Kayla. And I see what they buried. Someone has to dig it up. Before Logan could ask more, the man walked off into the shadows. Behind him, the mill creaked in the wind. Part 6. Something in the ground. Logan couldn't sleep that night. Alvarez's words looped in his head like a broken record. She had names. She knew too much. They buried it. He sat in his tiny rented room, walls plastered, with maps, photos, timelines, and Emily's face, staring out from a missing persons flyer. Her story was buried. But not erased. Logan scrolled back through the anonymous messages Kayla had sent before she vanished. One stood out now. There's a spot in the woods. Emily marked it with red tape. She called it insurance. He never paid attention before. Now he did. The next morning, Logan hiked into the woods northeast of Dry Creek, the same path where Emily's bike had been found dumped 2 years ago. He wandered for nearly an hour, the cicadas screaming above him. Then he saw it, red flagging tape, barely visible through thick underbrush, tied around a young pine tree. Faded, weathered, but still there. Just below it, the earth looked different, softer, disturbed. Logan dropped to his knees and began to dig with his hands. 10 minutes passed. Sweat, dirt, breathlessness, then a hard knock. Metal. He uncovered a rusted, sealed ammo box. Inside, wrapped in plastic, a flash drive, a small notebook, and an old disposable camera. He ran back to town like hell was chasing him. Back in his room, he plugged in the flash drive. Inside, 3 folders, all labeled DRC at Dry Creek initials. Photos, blurry, grainy, but enough to make your skin crawl. A man in sheriff's uniform, handing off duffel bags to a black SUV in the middle of the night. Another deputy guarding what looked like a meth lab hidden in a farm storage barn. And then, one still image. Emily's face, frightened, eyes wide, clearly taken through a window. She was alive when she captured it. The notebook was a log. Names, dates, times, plate numbers. Emily had done her homework. She'd been building a case, alone, and someone beat her to the finish line with a shovel. Logan's hands trembled. This wasn't just a story anymore. It was evidence. It was war. Part 7. Leaking the truth. Logan knew he couldn't go to the local police. Not in a town like Dry Creek. Not when half of them might be involved. He needed someone outside. Someone with a voice, and nothing left to lose. That's when he drove 30 miles out to meet Marcus Hill, a former homicide detective turned independent blogger. Marcus had left the force after blowing the whistle on a cover-up involving cartel money. Since then, he'd been writing exposes, shining a light on the dirt most people tried to bury. They met at a worn-out diner just off Highway 9, a place where the coffee was always bad and the waitresses never asked questions. Logan opened his laptop and slid it across the table. Marcus scanned the photos silently. The SUV with the damage matching the crash, the missing taillight, the timestamp. Then the falsified police report. His jaw tightened. This better be real, Marcus said finally, his voice flat. Because if it is, you just kicked a hornet's nest. And if it's fake, you're dead. It's real, Logan replied, his throat dry. Marcus didn't blink. Then we leak it, quietly. Not to the big networks. They'll kill it. We go underground. Drop it piece by piece. Let them sweat. Over the next 72 hours, the leaks began. First, an anonymous tip published in a regional crime blog. Local deputy may be linked to cover up an unsolved teen death. Then came the photos, the SUV, side by side with the accident report. Then, a new source. A former dispatcher who claimed evidence had been misplaced during the investigation into Emily's death. Dry Creek went into a quiet panic. Whispers filled the gas stations and church pews. At Emily's old high school, students started sharing stories about her fear, about how she told them she was onto something big. Online forums lit up. Locals who once blamed Emily's death on reckless driving were now questioning everything. And Logan, he felt it, the shift. For the first time since Emily's funeral, people were listening. But that night, when he returned to his apartment, something was wrong. The door was slightly open. His heart pounded as he stepped inside, careful not to touch anything. On his bed, someone had left something. A dead fox, its fur matted, eyes wide, and a note pinned to its chest. You think you're the only one who can dig. Logan stood frozen, bile rising in his throat. Whoever he was chasing knew exactly where to find him, and they weren't done. Part 80. Beneath the uniform. Logan didn't sleep that night. The fox's lifeless eyes haunted him, even after the animal was gone and the sheets stripped from the bed. He knew the message wasn't random. It was personal, meant to shake him, to remind him that Emily wasn't the first and wouldn't be the last if he kept digging. The next morning, he met Marcus again, this time in a rented storage unit just outside of town. They couldn't risk another diner. Not now. Marcus had already pulled favors. An old friend still working in the state crime lab had quietly matched the SUV paint scrapings found at the crash site. It was a 100% match to the vehicle registered under Deputy Matthew Croft's cousin, but often seen parked at Croft's own house. Worse, there was now evidence that body cam footage from the night of Emily's death had been lost in a data corruption. Only 2 officers had access to that drive. One of them was Croft, the other Sheriff Vernon Tate. Logan stared at the printed documents Marcus handed him. His head spun. We're not dealing with a rogue cop, Marcus said quietly. This goes higher, way higher. That same day, Logan received a voicemail from an unknown number. You don't know what you're playing with, son. Walk away before you end up like her. He played it 5 times. Each time the voice grew colder, more real. A southern drawl, mid-40s, controlled. It sounded eerily familiar. He couldn't prove it, but deep down, he knew. It was the sheriff himself. That night, Logan dug through Emily's laptop again. Something still bugged him. All the files she'd saved, her emails, screenshots, recordings, had one folder labeled Red House. He'd overlooked it at first. It sounded like a ghost story. But when he opened it, he found a set of coordinates. Rural land, northwest of Dry Creek. No name, no owner listed in public records. The photos Emily had taken were grainy and dark, but in them was a single-story hunting cabin, windows blacked out. Parked outside in one photo, the same SUV. Marcus didn't want to go. We've got enough already, he argued. Let the leaks keep rolling. Let the story catch fire. We can't confront them, but Logan had made up his mind. If Emily went out there, and if it got her killed, I need to know what's inside. And so, the next day, with dusk bleeding over the horizon, they drove out to the Red House. No cell service, no neighbors. Just trees, dirt, and silence. The place looked abandoned, but as they stepped closer, they saw tire tracks, fresh, and cigarette butts on the porch, still warm. Marcus drew the handgun he carried since his NYPD days. Logan grabbed a flashlight. Inside, the air was thick, musty, sour. The walls were covered in maps, Polaroids, and documents. Faces of teenagers from Dry Creek, all marked with red tape. One of them was Emily. There were file folders with criminal records, DUIs, petty thefts, all on teens and young adults. Some of them hadn't even known they'd been arrested. Others had gone missing. In the corner was a locked filing cabinet. They forced it open with a crowbar. Inside were cash bundles, burner phones, and a leather-bound notebook labeled D40 to watch list. Each page had a name, date, and notes. Unstable, knows too much. Watch for contact with press, refused. To sell, pressured via citation, father's debt cleared. Recruited as CI, subject, Emily Barnes, investigating on her own. Asset loss possible. Logan froze. They'd been tracking her, and not just watching, managing her. Emily hadn't died in a crash. She was part of something far uglier, part of a targeted surveillance program run under the table by local authorities, extracting info, intimidating teens, and silencing anyone who talked. Marcus looked at Logan. We're past the point of leaking. This is federal. But before they could move, they heard a car door slam outside, then boots crunching gravel. They were no longer alone. Part 9. Know where to run. Footsteps outside were heavy, deliberate. Logan killed the flashlight. Marcus instinctively stepped back into the shadows, gun drawn but lowered. They both held their breath. The front door creaked open. Two figures stepped in, silhouettes against the fading twilight, both in civilian clothes, but carrying themselves like trained professionals. One of them flipped on a tactical flashlight. The beam swept across the room, pausing on the open cabinet, and the broken lock, a voice, low and steady, cut through the silence. Told you someone would come snooping eventually. Logan recognized the voice. Deputy Croft, the second man, muttered something under his breath, then cocked his head, checked the back. They're still here. Marcus motioned toward the rear window, a small one, half jammed with boards. Without a word, they both moved, slow and silent. Croft's boots thudded closer. You know what the sheriff said? If we catch M in here, we don't ask questions. We don't call it in. That was all Logan needed to hear. Marcus shoved the back window hard. The boards cracked. With a grunt, Logan slipped through, scraping his side on a nail, but landing in the cold dirt outside. Marcus followed a second later. They ran. Branches tore at their clothes as they crashed through the trees. Behind them, voices shouted. Gunshots cracked through the night, not aimed to hit, but close enough to scare. After 10 frantic minutes, they reached the truck. Marcus gunned the engine, gravel spitting behind the tires as they sped down the dirt road and back toward Dry Creek. Neither spoke until they hit the county highway. Then Logan finally said it. They were going to kill us. Marcus didn't answer. His jaw was clenched tight, eyes locked on the road ahead. The next morning, Logan met with Janelle, a journalist at a mid-sized paper out of Baton Rouge. She was no stranger to crooked cops, and more importantly, she wasn't afraid of them. They laid everything out. The documents, the photos, the cabin, the files on Emily, and the others. This is a goddamn RICO case, she muttered. If we leak this the wrong way, it'll get buried. But if we time it right, can you get it to someone at Justice? Logan asked. She nodded. And someone at CNN, but we'll need a secure channel and protection. By the end of the day, the materials were encrypted, backed up to 5 drives, and one was hand-delivered to a contact in New Orleans. Janelle promised the first wave of the story would drop within 48 hours. That night, Logan returned home to find his apartment door unlocked. Everything inside had been turned over. Mattress shredded, files gone, laptop destroyed, but on the counter was a Polaroid. It showed a photo of Marcus, tied to a chair, bruised, bleeding, barely conscious. On the back, scrawled in black marker, "You wanted answers. Now come get them." Part 10. Into the Lion's Den warehouse sat at the edge of town, a rusting steel shell left behind by a defunct lumber company decades ago. Locals called it the Slab, a place teenagers dared each other to enter, and even the cops. Never patrolled, it had long since passed into legend. But tonight, it was something far more real. Logan parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, heart pounding like a war drum. The Polaroid in his pocket felt radioactive, a promise and a threat. As he reached the edge of the structure, the silence swallowed him whole. No traffic, no owls, just the soft crackle of an overhead power line. A figure appeared in the shadows. Behind the chain link fence. "Croft, thought you might show," he said, cigarette glowing in the dark. "Boy like you doesn't quit when he should." Logan didn't answer. Croft stepped aside. "He's inside, alone, for now, inside." The warehouse was lit by a few overhead bulbs that cast long, monstrous shadows on the concrete floor. Marcus sat bound to a steel chair, just as the photo had shown. His face was blooded, but alert. "Logan," he croaked. Don't a sudden voice cut him off. He already did. Came a new voice, Sheriff Dwayne Miller, stepping into the light. Logan's stomach turned. "I should have buried this whole damn story when your sister started poking around," the sheriff muttered. "But she got cute, and now you." He pulled out a revolver, heavy, old school, personal. "You think this is about one dead girl. You think Dry Creek runs on tax money and prayer. We've got deals going back 20 years. Every meth shipment that runs through here, every dirty dollar that gets cleaned, it keeps this town alive." Logan clenched his fists. "You killed Emily." The sheriff gave a crooked smile. "She killed herself. We just helped her get there faster." Logan lunged, not for the sheriff, but for a dangling rusted chain nearby. He swung it like a whip, catching Miller across the face. The gun dropped. Croft stepped in, but Marcus, still bound, threw his chair sideways into Croft's knees. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Logan grabbed the gun. "Don't move," he shouted. Breathing hard, he pointed the barrel between the sheriff's eyes. "This ends now." But the sheriff only laughed, blood dripping from his temple. "You think they'll believe you? You're a mechanic. You've got a rap sheet." "I'm a goddamn sheriff." That's when Logan heard the click dot behind him. Chanel, holding a phone, recording the entire thing. "Smile, Sheriff," she said. "You're live." 1 month later, the story made national news. Sheriff Dwayne Miller and Deputy Croft were arrested, alongside 7 other individuals tied to drug trafficking, extortion, and obstruction of justice. Dozens of old cases were reopened. Emily's death was officially reclassified as homicide. Marcus recovered. He moved to Texas, started a new life. Chanel won an award for investigative journalism. Logan, he stayed. He fixed cars by day and volunteered at a community youth center by night, telling kids that secrets rot the soul and the truth, no matter how buried, always finds daylight. Some towns, Logan once said, are built on history. Others are built on secrets, and if you listen hard enough, the ground will whisper them to you. Part 11. What Remains trial began on a Monday. Logan didn't dress up. Just wore the same boots he had worn that night in the warehouse, still stained faintly with oil and dust. He sat behind the prosecutor's bench, not to testify that day, but to witness. The courtroom was full. Reporters, locals, former cops in plain clothes. No one dared look him in the eye, but Logan wasn't there for them. He was there for Emily. Her photo sat folded in his back pocket. The one she'd taken of herself, smiling in the sunshine on the banks of Pine River, a place that now felt cursed. "Your Honor," the district attorney spoke, "the defendant used the power of his office not to protect, but to poison. He covered up murder. He facilitated drug trafficking. He silenced witnesses, including, we believe, Emily Clark." At the mention of her name, Logan saw Sheriff Miller flinch. It was small, but it was real. For the first time, the mask cracked. Croft pled guilty, turned state's witness. Miller. He fought it, claimed entrapment, claimed conspiracy. The jury took for hours. Guilty on all counts. The town breeds a Gaindry Creek, changed after that. Slowly. At first, the city council was cleaned out. State officials sent oversight officers. The police department was gutted and rebuilt from scratch. The youth center, where Logan volunteered, got new funding. New murals appeared around town. One of them, on the side of the old diner, showed a girl with red-haired Emily, smiling next to a caption that simply read, "Truth doesn't die with the dead." Janelle moved on to bigger stories, national stories. But she called Logan every few weeks, just to check in. Marcus wrote him a letter. He didn't talk about what had happened, but he ended it with, "You saved me, and I'll never forget." That, the final visit on foggy morning, Logan drove out to Pine River. He parked where the trailhead met the trees, walked along the familiar path, the silence wrapping around him like an old coat. The place where Emily had died was still marked, not by tape, not by police, but by a single stone someone had placed there. A smooth rock, painted in red, with the word, "Speak." Logan sat for a while, not to mourn, not even to remember, but to promise that no matter how deep the secrets ran, he would never let them stay buried. Not again. Part 12. The quiet knock. 6 months had passed. Spring had returned to Dry Creek. The cherry blossoms had bloomed early, coating the sidewalks in soft pink snow. For the first time in years, the town felt calm. Almost peaceful. Logan had started teaching self-defense classes at the youth center. Nothing official, just something for the kids who needed strength. He smiled more now. Laughed sometimes, but peace is a fragile thing. That night, the knock came just after 2 a.m. Not loud. Not rushed, just 3 quiet, deliberate taps on the front door. Logan was already awake. He always was around that hour. His body still kept the old rhythm of patrols and late-night stackouts. He opened the door cautiously. A man stood there, tall, with gray at his temples and a thick brown coat. He didn't say his name, just offered a sealed envelope. "You don't know me," the man said, voice low. "But I knew your brother. My brother died when I was 12. Logan answered, suspicion crawling in. The man didn't blink. No, that's what they told you. He handed over the envelope, turned, and walked into the dark. Inside the letter it was handwritten, not typed. Not copied, the ink smeared in places, as though the writer had paused, unsure whether to keep going. The letter was from someone claiming to be a former FBI field agent, assigned to Dry Creek decades earlier. It described a covert program, a cleanup operation. The name Emily Clark appeared in the second paragraph, but more chilling, so did Logan's. And at the bottom of the letter, taped loosely to the page, was a photo. Logan in a hospital bed, unconscious, monitored, hooked. 2 machines, dated 3 weeks before Emily's death. They knew what was coming, the letter read. They always knew, she just found it too early. Back to the beginning, Logan didn't sleep that night. He went to the garage, opened an old metal box he hadn't touched in years, one filled with his brother's belongings. Inside, among the dusty metals and school notebooks, was a newspaper clipping. High school student killed in boating accident. No remains recovered. Logan remembered now. The day his brother disappeared, he was told never to ask questions. That it was a tragedy, that it was best left buried. Now, decades later, another body was gone. Another lie told. Another town ready to forget. But Logan couldn't, because now he knew something deeper was at play. Something still hidden, and somewhere, in the shadows of Dry Creek. Someone was watching.